Welcome once again. In today's video, we shall look into a very important subject in quadratic, and that is about word problem leading to quadratic expression or equation. All right, we have a typical example on the board, which I would like to read out now. The question says the product of two consecutive positive odd numbers. So take note of this word, odd, is 195. Then by constructing a quadratic equation and solving it, we are then asked to find the two numbers. So there are two things I want you to take note of. The first one is odd, then the second one is product. When we say odd numbers, what does that mean? It simply means numbers that cannot be divided by 2. Numbers like 3, 5, 7, they cannot be divided by 2. Even 9 cannot be divided by 2. All of them are odd numbers. And the opposite of it is even numbers, which can be divided by 2. Now, what is product? Product is the results or that very quantity you obtain when you multiply two numbers. That is the meaning of product. So with these two knowledge, let's go ahead and solve this. We are told that the product of two consecutive numbers, and those two consecutive numbers should be a positive numbers, but we don't know what those two numbers are. So this is what I'm going to say. Solution. I'm going to say let y be the first odd number. Okay, I do not know what the odd numbers are. Okay, which are the two consecutive numbers? I do not know what they are, so I will say let y represent one of the odd number. Then for the second odd number, I will now say let y plus 2 represent it. Okay, so let both y and y plus 2 represents, I'm using rep as the short form of represent because of space now. So let y and y plus 2 represent the two consecutive odd number. Okay, so the y and y plus 2 representing two consecutive odd numbers. Why did I use y plus 2 as the second consecutive odd number? The reason is because if y is an odd number, for instance 5 is an odd number, y plus 2 will now mean 5, which is y plus 2, and that will produce 7. So you could see that 5 and 7 are both odd numbers. So if I say let y be maybe 7, which is an odd number, so y plus 2 will now be, y is now 7, and 7 plus 2 is going to give us 9. So 9 is still an odd number. So take note of that. So that simply means that if I should consider y as my odd number, then to get the subsequent or the further odd numbers, I could use y plus 2, because I if I should add 2 to any odd number, it's going to still produce an odd number. Take note of that. That's the fun fact there. All right, with that just said, we are now told that the product, remember product is the result you get after multiplying two numbers or two or more numbers. So we are now told that the product of these two odd numbers, which simply means y multiplied by y plus 2, that the result of the product of it is going to be 195. So y in multiplied by y plus 2 is going to give us 195. Okay, so this is typically what you are supposed to do. Okay, so let's open up the bracket now. Y times y is going to give us y squared. Y times plus 2 is going to give us plus 2y, and that is now equal to 195. Then the second thing is this. Looking at this, you could see that it's already looking like quadratic equation. To complete it, you can now put it in this form, that y squared plus 2y. If we should take 195 to the right hand side, it will, to the left hand side of the equation, it will be negative 195, and that is equal to 0. Okay, or you subtract 195 from both sides of the equation, you're gonna get this. Okay, so the next thing is to solve this problem quadratically, and to solve it quadratically, I will now say y squared multiplied by negative 195 is going to give me negative 195. Okay, so I'm going to look for two factors, and when I multiply them, they are going to give me negative 195y squared. Then when I add them, it's going to give me 2y, and those two factors are going to be 13y and 15. Okay, so they are going to be 13y and then 15y. Okay, if you don't know how to derive these two factors, try to visit my previous videos where I taught about factorization of a given quadratic expression or equation, and you'll be able to understand this quite well. Now, solving for that, I then have that my y squared. Once I take y squared, I'm going to add these two factors, which are minus 13y and plus 15y. Then I'm going to also attach the minus 195, and that is equal to 0. I'm not making use of this 2y because I know that minus 13y plus 15y is still going to give me plus 2y. So that's why I didn't consider this 2y in this case. So solving further now, I can group them in twos. Remember, this is y squared minus 13y plus 15y, okay, then minus 195 equal to 0. Grouping them in twos, okay. I can now look for the factor that can divide both y squared and 13y, and the factor should be y. And y divide y squared, we are left with y. The minus y divide 13y, we are left with 13. The same thing is applicable here. What factor can divide would divide 15y and 195? Okay, and the factor should be 15. So that if 15 goes into 15y, it's going to give us, we are left with y. And if plus multiplied by minus is minus, then if 15 should divide 195, it's going to give us 13. And that is equal to 0. Okay, so in this case, it's either this y plus this 15, okay, or since this and these are the same, y minus 13 and y minus 13, or y minus 13 is equal to 0. So either this component y plus 15 or y minus 13 will be equal to 0. The implication of this is that if you should open up this bracket, it's still going to result you back to this quadratic equation here. So that is the power of this. So if this or this is equal to 0, the implication is that y plus 15 is equal to 0, or y minus 13 is equal to 0. That's the implication. Such that if you make y the subject of this given equation here, it will now be negative 15. Or if you make y the subject here, it will now be positive 13. That is adding 13 to both sides of the equation. All right, with that just said, we are not considering, remember the question said product of two consecutive positive. So with that language there, positive, that means we are just taking the value of y to be 13 instead of taking that of minus 15. So take note of that, because minus 15 is a negative number, but we are considering positive number. The next thing is to find the next value of y. We've just found the first value of y, which is y equal to 13, and we want to find the second value of y. And to do so, from what we have here to be y plus 2. So I will now say that y plus 2 simply implies what is y now? Y is 13. That is 13 plus these 2 now, which is equal to 15. Therefore, our y, the two consecutive positive odd numbers that we are looking for, is that y is equal to 13 and I'm using ampersand for and now, and 15. So these are two consecutive values of y. This is how what problem that leads to quadratic equation. This is how it looks like. Remember to like and to follow my page for more of my maths video. Don't forget to share this video. Thank you.